What's up, guys and gals? Red Icing back to talk about Persona. However, this isn't the usual about Persona 5. No. This is a video about Persona 6. While researching the Persona series, the thoughts about a Persona 6 have creeped into my mind. A game that you can theoretically make up in your own head since there's no info about it, but you can make assumptions about it based off of previous games. The purpose of this video is just to get some of the headcanons out there and see what comes of it. These headcanons are even more iffy than some of the crackpot theories I have posted, but at least I will give the reason for them. Now, some of the usual disclaimers: I am not an expert, just a fan and a researcher. Most likely the subjects in this video will not be true, so please don't take them as such. Also, these are headcanons, so there will most likely be differences in viewpoints from you to me. And I would also like to hear your headcanons as well in the comments. I could say 50 more disclaimers, but I won't, as this subject is too theoretical. So let's just get into the headcanons and the reasoning behind them. So the first thing I need to talk about when it comes to Persona 6 is what color it will be, as the color of a Persona game has many implications for it ever since Persona 3. Now I'm going to warn you, I will be constantly referencing the colors of the Persona games, so it may get annoying. Persona 3, 4, and 5 were all based on a solid main color. 3 is blue, 4 is yellow, 5 is red. Now, if we were to imply that Persona 1 and both Persona 2 games were similar, also Persona 3 and 4 were similar, then it's likely that Persona 6 will be similar to Persona 5. That being said, Persona 6 will have a solid, dominant color. But which color will it be? Persona 3, 4, and 5 covered the primary colors already, so now we have to enter into the complementary colors. Of the complementary colors, green is the one mostly considered above the rest as a possibility. Green is much more popular than purple or orange, so in all likelihood the color will be green. Now, taking this into consideration, we must again look back at Persona 3 through 5 to exact what details green means for Persona 6. Each of the mentioned titles were heavily tied into their respective color. The overall theme in Persona 3 was depression and nihilism, which could translate into blue, since blue is closely related to sadness. In Persona 4, it was a mixture of different emotions. It was fear and happiness, both of which can be tied into yellow. I'm assuming Persona's 5 main themes will be anger, revolution, oppression, all of that based on trailer evidence, which ties into red. So, what emotions and situation tie into green? Honestly, too much to factor in all at once, but for the sake of time, I will say jealousy, disgust, and greed. So putting it into a plot, most of the characters are jealous of those around them, disgusted of the ways people act being different from them, and have the greed to wish they were better off. Makes sense so far, but we also have to consider the opposition to the main party. And for that, we need a sickness. In Persona 3, the blue theme could tie into the apathy syndrome, a sickness of the mind. Persona 4's yellow theme tied into a sickness of the air due to the toxic fog. Persona 5's sickness seemed to be a sickness of the blood, ties into red and the importance of corrupted hearts inside the game. So how does green tie into it when it comes to sickness? Well, the most obvious choice is a sickness of the stomach, so I will just go with that. Ooh, just realized I suggested that enemy personas could appear first as vomit. Disgusting. Hey, it fits with the theme! Now on to the setting. Now this may get me into a bit of trouble with whatever I suggest. Let it be said that I really want a college-aged character group or even a mid-20s group for Persona 6. But the more I think on it, the more it would be harder to make gameplay-wise and write story-wise, not to mention to relate it to real life. So Persona Studios would likely avoid it and just stick with the usual. So yes, I will reluctantly stick to the high school atmosphere. Now, since the sickness we described seems more disgustingly obvious and offensive than other renditions, the high school will be located in an average-sized town rather than a city, in so that the town will undergo a quarantine at one point without too much explanation from the story. You quarantine a city, that takes a lot of work and they gotta explain it very well. Got a small town, you quarantine it off, nobody's any the wiser. I mean, come on, conspiracy. The town will be spread out into different districts similar to past Persona games, with more of an emphasis on the surrounding area around the town as well. let's move on from now because the setting's kind of boring. Alright, time for characters. This is one of the things I was worried about telling all of you since it will probably give me the most flack. But the main character should be optioned to allow both genders. I know it's not at all possible for the vanilla versions of the Persona games, but it should be standard by now instead of just a bonus option for a golden FES etc. version. Anyways, the main character again is a newcomer to town with 1 year, and it better be a full year, not this 9-month crap you've been giving us. When the main character comes into town, it stirs a lot of attention around school, seeing as the town rarely gets transfers. This creates a boom in popularity which causes some of the students to be jealous of the main character, which could lead to some after-school events turned bad. The party members other than the main character are mostly teenagers native to that town, but not in the Persona 4 way of less than half of them actually being native. These party members already know the social standards for the town and fit into the town in their own respective way. Not only that, but they end up in the party after causing conflict with the main character. And once they get a taste of the other world, they slowly start to notice there's no reason to cause conflict with the MC, there's something wrong inside them, leads to cooperation links. Also, at least one of the characters needs to be fat or fat-ish, since it seems you have to be physically fit to be a Persona user for one reason or another. You know, too much fat content can't fit in the door to the Velvet Room. Come on, Persona Studios, allow just one, and I mean just one. I don't want fatties everywhere. I already live in America. Speaking of the other world, we have to talk about transport methods. How do they get to the other world? Persona 3 had the Dark Hour, Persona 4 had the TV, and Persona 5 has the smartphone app along with the subway system. Considering this, it may be something to Persona 3 with an uncontrollable phenomenon along with a location important to the town. Not only that, but they kind of went TV to smartphone. Where the heck is a desktop or a laptop in that equation? Did they just throw that out the window already? As to what location is important in the town and the phenomenon being caused, I am drawing a blank. Let's leave that for now. The RPG combat will be very similar to Persona 5, and exploration will have its own already designed dungeons rather than the procedurally generated ones of Persona 3 and 4. Now to talk cooperation links. Like the color theme, each Persona from Persona 3 and on, with either social or cooperation links, there was an underlying theme. Persona 3 was nihilism based, for the most part. Persona 4 was social fears. Have no clue what Persona 5 will be as of yet. So for Persona 6, I'll just say a random one. Like the cooperation links for the party members will be based on Freudian defense mechanisms. I know that Persona is based off of Jungian psychology, but for the sake of doing something different, let's take a look at the teachings of Freud. Oh, oops. Sorry, I meant Freud. Now, these mechanisms allow a person to avoid the truth or put blame on other people and things to compensate for one's own shortcomings. Denial, which is to convince oneself it is false when it is absolutely true. Regression, which is to fall back and believe you are living at a time you felt happy rather than deal with the present and all of its struggle. Projection, which is to place your shortcomings as an aspect of others, such as calling people fat when you yourself are fat. Defense mechanisms can play both into the jealousy theme or the disgust theme, whichever prevails. And I would also like to point out that a commenter by the name of Diego said something beautiful the other night. And his idea was that people are so concentrated on their own image that they keep on putting down others. You know, douchebaggery. So much that it causes that jealousy. Whenever they see somebody who's better than them or they perceive as better than them, they consider them a threat rather than a potential friend. So many people are concentrated on social media and all this stuff. Everybody's trying to be a movie star or trying to be the most popular or whatever. So much so that it could play into jealousy and disgust. And I'm so glad Diego put that in because it makes so much sense. Alright, I'm having trouble making any more headcannons at this point, so I'm going to have to stop here. But I may post an extension to it at some point in the future. I do not believe in any way that this information could be definite. It was just an interesting subject to talk about. As always, I would like to hear your questions, criticisms, and statements in the comments below. And if you want me to reply to them, type red at the start of your comment and I will try to get back to you. Now it is the time for the hardest part of this video. As all of you know, Persona 5 will have its Japanese release date September 15th. And I won't be getting the game until February like most of the world outside Japan. In order to avoid spoilers, this channel will avoid comments and messages pertaining to Persona 5, starting on Thursday. Theory and analysis videos from then on will switch to other games, so be sure to get all of your questions in before that. Sorry to do this, but I am a huge fan of this story-based series, as you can tell, and I don't want it spoiled for me or anyone else, especially if it's somebody else that's watching one of my videos. I will continue to make theories, and once I have beaten Persona 5, I could talk about it again for review purposes. If you only showed up to the channel for Persona and have no interest in other games I will talk about, games like Mass Effect Andromeda, Psychonauts 2, and very many other story-based games I find interesting, along with the usual rants and predictions. If you do not want to stay for that, I do not blame you at all, and if you choose to unsub, honestly, I am just happy that you were interested in these videos for the short time. With that said, I want to thank Fosizzle for helping me with translations and theories from almost the start of when I began this Persona series. I also like to send a shout out to Crossball Games for making his own awesome videos on Persona 5. But most importantly, I want to thank all of you who viewed these videos, asked questions, gave criticisms, sent links and info, and had the courage, especially these people who had the courage to post their own theories. It has made this all worthwhile and fun. It had to end for Persona 5 at some point, but who knows, I may make some theories about Persona 5 after I beat it a couple of times. Not only that, but I've been sitting on scripts for the longest time for other games. Sorry to do this, but I feel it needs to be done. So, Persona 5 being cut off from the channel, I don't want to hear anything, and I'm pretty sure anybody else who has to wait for the game doesn't want it spoiled for them as well. To those who will be playing it Thursday, I hope you enjoy it to its fullest extent, and to those like me who are waiting, I hope you stay spoiler-free until you can play the game yourself and that curiosity doesn't get the better of you. Again, I cannot think of a closer. So,
goodbye.